So I know many of you came on board expecting to see Jeep content. And I also know that it's been over a year since I uploaded any video having to do with my Jeeps. As soon as we get on the road, I'm going to tell you the story of why I haven't uploaded a Jeep video in over a year, and I'm going to tell you about the new Jeep that we're headed to pick up and bring home. So let's talk a little bit about some of the major changes that have happened in my life over the last year and a half. So some of you may already know that my dad and my uncle have owned a gun shop since 1962, and I've actually featured it a couple times on the channel, or talked about it a couple times on the channel. Well, both of them, both my dad and my uncle, were either in their very late 80s or very early 90s. And they faithfully ran that business every day of their lives, almost until the day that they died. And they both have died. Just about a year and a half ago, my uncle passed away. And that left my dad running that shop all by himself. Now, Dad at the time was 93 years old, and it was clear to me that there was no way that Pops was going to be able to do this on his own. So I jumped in to give a hand. That took a lot of my time that was supposed to be my retirement, and I ended up dedicating that time not only to the shop but to my dad, because my dad was important to me in my life. He was a mentor, he was a teacher, and being with him so that he could continue to run his business was important to him, but it was also very important to me. So following my uncle's death, I went down to help Pop. I mean, that's what I did, and I think that's what families do. But I also had to run my own shop. Between the two shops, my workload got really pretty heavy. Then last summer, or the middle of last summer, my dad had a stroke, and that stroke changed everything. Ultimately, my dad passed away. He passed away at 95 years old, which is a life well lived. But right until the very end, the day that Dad had his stroke, he had spent 5 hours down at his shop gunsmithing. It was what Dad did. It was what defined him, and it was what made his life matter. So that's what we did. That's what I did. And the results of that was I no longer had the time to commit to the Jeeps. The Jeeps became much lesser of a priority. They are still something that I am very passionate about. And that's where this new Jeep comes in. Now, this particular Jeep is actually very important to me. I've talked about it at least once in a previous video. Literally, none of my Jeeps, including the one we're picking up, have run for 2 years. Literally 2 years. The thing that happened with my uncle, my dad, they all got parked in the corner, and that's where they sat. And I know that neither one of them are going to start. We'll talk about that as we begin to work on it. So let's get over to the barn where the new Jeep is stored, and when we get there, I'll tell you more about that Jeep and its place, or its place in my family's history, and especially in my history, and ultimately my heart. So I mentioned earlier that the Jeep won't start, and the last time they drove it, they got it to the barn, it quit, and then they couldn't start it again. I'm pretty sure it's a grounding issue. It's 6 volt. When they did the restoration, they maintained the 6 volt system. So I'm pretty confident at this point it's just a grounding problem, but I'm not going to be able to know that until I get it home and do some work and check out whether or not it is a grounding problem or something else. Anyway, so we need to pull it in with a winch. I've got a portable winch that I bought years ago, and it's actually, for a little thing, it's pretty powerful, and of course the Jeep doesn't weigh much yet anyway, so we're going to winch it onto the trailer and then winch it off when we get back to the house. This is a 1943 Willys MB. Now, my dad bought this surplus in 1949. By that point, he'd only been out of the Marine Corps for 3 years. Dad had served in the Pacific at the tail end of World War II. Dad knew what these Jeeps could do, and when I asked him why he bought this, that was his answer. He said, you know, we used these in the Pacific. I knew what they were capable of, and Dad was a great hunter. He was a big hunter. He enjoyed hunting. He enjoyed being out in the woods, and he knew that this vehicle, this Jeep, was going to get him back in the woods, into the places that most people never went, and that's where Dad liked to be. It's been in my family ever since. There are some things that I do want to accomplish this summer, and two of those things is I want to get both this Jeep and my CJ2 back up and running, and neither one of them want to start. I've got a couple theories on this one. I think it's a grounding issue. It is a 6-volt system, and what I know is that if the 6 volts are not properly grounded or grounded well, they just don't want to turn over and start. So that's something I need to work on here. The CJ2A, I'm pretty confident right now that it's a fuel pump. So those two videos are definitely coming up. I want to get these up and running so I can take them down the road, take them down the street, and get all of you to see these just beautiful things, you know, out where they belong, running, doing what they were designed to do. Let's get this Jeep off the trailer. Let's get it in the garage, and let's get it parked next to the other one. Jeep 2. So for everybody who came on board the channel for the Jeeps, thank you for being here. So we're going to try and get a little bit more Jeep content coming up to the channel, but the firearms stuff is probably going to dominate for a while. That is a working shop, and I need to keep the work going. I need to keep my customers happy. So for all of you that have stuck around through the entire video, thank you for being here. I'll see you in the next one. Oh, before you go, Brian over at Real World Garage. I got your challenge, and here's my problem with it. I don't carry much in my pockets, literally. I've got my wallet, and I think we all kind of have that. But the only thing I've ever carried in my pocket is my comb. And I don't even know why I do this. I comb my hair once a day, and then I never look at the comb for the rest of the day. Brian, that's the best that I can do. Thanks for throwing people over to my channel. Really appreciate that. For all of you, if you've never seen Brian's channel, The Real World Garage, really recommend it. Brian is a professional mechanic. He knows his stuff. You need to watch Brian's channel. Feels like I'm